Something brought you here today. Maybe you've been staring at your phone, waiting. Maybe you've replayed the last conversation 100 times, looking for the moment things shifted. Maybe the silence has become so loud that it's the only thing you can hear anymore. Whatever it was, you were guided here, and I want you to know that the cards that came out for this reading stopped me the moment I pulled them. The energy around this situation is deep. It's layered. And what's been hidden beneath the surface of this person's distance? It is not what you've been telling yourself. So take a breath. Get quiet for a moment. And let's go into this together. The very first card that came out, and I felt this one before I even turned it over, is called the Signal. Now when I see this card, I immediately feel the energy of communication. Not communication that's happening, but communication that's been suppressed. There's a frequency here, like a radio station that's still broadcasting but someone turned the volume all the way down. And I want you to think about that for a second. Just because you can't hear something doesn't mean it's stopped transmitting. This card is telling us that your person has been sending you signals, but not through the obvious channels. Not through texts or calls or showing up at your door. The signal has been quieter than that. Maybe you've sensed it. A feeling that washes over you out of nowhere. A dream you didn't ask for. A moment where you almost texted them and something told you not to. That wasn't random. That was the signal. What I'm getting intuitively around this card is that this person's silence is itself a message, but it's being misread. You've probably interpreted their pulling away as rejection. As them having moved on. As some kind of confirmation of your worst fears. But this card is almost waving its hands at me, saying no, no, no. That interpretation is inaccurate. There's a block here. There is something that has come between them and the natural impulse to reach out, and it has nothing to do with how they feel about you. I want you to sit with that. The signal is still there. The channel has just been disrupted. And then I look at the second card, and I almost laughed, because the universe has such a way of confirming things in layers. The second card is brick by brick. Oh, this one. This one is heavy with meaning. Brick by brick tells me that this person has been building something around themselves. Not consciously, necessarily. Not as a calculated decision. But over time, over experiences that have hurt them, over moments where they felt exposed or misunderstood or let down, they started laying down bricks. One at a time. And what you're experiencing right now, this sudden distance that feels so confusing, isn't sudden at all. It's the wall that's been under construction for a while, and you've just reached the point where it's tall enough that you can't see over it anymore. Here's what I need you to hear about this, and this is a channeled message coming through right now. The wall was not built because of you. It was built before you. It was built for protection, and the painful irony is that the very thing that was designed to keep pain out is now keeping connection out too. Your person is on the other side of this wall, and some part of them knows it. Some part of them feels the isolation of it. But dismantling what you've spent years constructing is terrifying, especially when you don't fully understand why you built it in the first place. I'm seeing some past wounding here. There may have been a relationship, romantic or familial, it could go either way, where this person opened up completely and got hurt in a way they didn't recover from cleanly. They carried something from that experience into this connection with you. And when things between you got real, when the depth started to show itself, something in their nervous system went on high alert. The bricks went up faster. Can you think of a moment where things shifted between you? Where something became more honest, more intimate, more exposed? I think that's somewhere near the turning point. Not a fight. Not a falling out. Just a moment of realness that triggered something old in them. This isn't an excuse. This is context. And there's a difference. Moving to the third card, and this is where the reading takes a turn I wasn't expecting, Courage to Return. The fact that this card appeared is significant. The energy around it is not stagnant. This isn't a card that shows up when something is over. This is a card that shows up when something is in motion, specifically, the internal motion of someone working up to something. Working up to what, you might ask? Working up to coming back. Now I want to be careful here, because I don't want to give you false hope or tell you this is guaranteed, because it's always a matter of free will and timing. But what I can tell you is that the energy in this card feels like someone standing at a door. Their hand is hovering near the handle. They've opened this door in their mind so many times. They've imagined the conversation. They've rehearsed what they would say. And then fear walks back in and they step away again. There is a war happening inside this person right now. And courage, real courage, isn't the absence of fear. It's taking the step even when the fear is still there. This card suggests that step is being considered. Seriously considered. Maybe for the first time with enough gravity to potentially become action. What needs to happen for that courage to convert into return? I feel like this person needs a sign from the universe, or from you energetically, that the door is still open. Not a desperate plea. Not a series of messages. Just an energy, a knowingness that you haven't closed the door on them. That there's still space. That if they came back, they wouldn't be walking into judgment or resentment. How you hold yourself in this waiting period matters more than you know. The energy you carry is a signal too. And speaking of energy, card 4 is the longing. I felt this card in my chest the moment it appeared. There's a deep ache to this energy. A grief that isn't quite grief because it's mourning something that still exists. You know that particular kind of pain, don't you? The missing of someone who is still alive, still reachable, still just on the other side of a choice. This card confirms, and I want this to really land for you, that the longing is mutual. They miss you. Not in a distant, detached, oh I wonder how they are kind of way. They miss you in the way that catches you off guard in the middle of an ordinary day. They miss you and it's inconvenient and they don't know what to do with it. Because missing you means acknowledging that something was real. And when you've spent so much energy convincing yourself that you're better off behind the wall, feeling this longing is evidence that the wall isn't working. I'm also being shown something here about nostalgia. Specific memories. I feel like this person has been replaying moments you shared, good ones, real ones, and there's a softness that comes over them when they do. An ache. And then sometimes anger, because why does this have to be so hard? Why can't it be simpler? That frustration isn't directed at you. It's directed at themselves. At the part of them that can't seem to let go, even when they keep trying to. Even when they have reasons, real or constructed, to stay away. The longing in this card is also carrying a message for you. It's asking, what are you doing with your longing? Are you drowning in it? Are you using it to fuel obsessive thoughts and worst-case scenarios? Because the invitation here is to transform that ache into something sacred. To let it be a reminder of what's real rather than evidence of what's lost. There's a difference in how those two energies sit in your body, and one of them will carry you forward while the other will keep you stuck. Take what resonates here, and leave what doesn't. This is a collective reading and the details may show up differently for each of you. But now we're at card 5, and this one made me emotional, honestly. The card is called Your Light. Your light. I need you to really hear what this card is saying, because it's speaking directly to you and about you, not about them. There is something about who you are, your specific energy, the way you carry yourself in the world, the warmth you offer, the authenticity that lives in you, that is genuinely rare. And your person has been close enough to that light to know what it feels like. They know what it's like to sit in your warmth. And here's what this card is revealing, that light is part of what scared them. Not because it's overwhelming or too much, but because it illuminated things in themselves they weren't ready to face. When you are truly in the presence of someone whose light is real, it does something to you. It makes your shadows more visible. And for someone who has spent years making peace with their darkness by pretending it isn't there, your presence disturbed something. Your light was a mirror they weren't expecting. This is not your fault. And it's not a flaw. It is actually a testament to the depth of who you are. But I also want to speak to something that this card is gently confronting, and that is the question of whether you've been dimming your own light in this waiting. Have you been making yourself smaller hoping they'll come back? Have you been second-guessing your instincts, your worth, your goodness because someone chose silence over you? Because if so, the cards are very clear on this, that is not the path forward. Your light is the thing. It is the entire thing. And any person who is meant to stand beside you will not be intimidated by it, they will be drawn into it, steadied by it, transformed by it. Your person has to come to terms with their own relationship to light and shadow before they can fully receive yours. That is their work. Not yours. And now, the sixth card. The final card. The one I've been sensing the energy of since we began, because it changes everything about how we understand this reading. The card is the biggest mistake. Now, before you interpret this the way fear might want you to, let me tell you what I feel coming through with this card. Because there's a layered meaning here that applies to both of you, and I need to unfold it carefully. For your person, their biggest mistake was retreating. Not the feelings that led to it, not the fear, not the wall, those were all, in some complicated human way, understandable. But the choice to go silent. The choice to disappear rather than communicate. That is what this card is pointing to, and there is an awareness growing in them about it. They are starting to understand, maybe haven't fully admitted it yet, but it's forming, that the distance they created has cost them something they didn't actually want to lose. The recognition of that is uncomfortable. There may even be some shame around it. Some, I don't know how to fix what I've created, energy. They may have convinced themselves in the early days of the withdrawal that it was the right thing to do. That they were protecting themselves, or even protecting you. But the biggest mistake showing up in this position is the universe saying, that justification is wearing thin. The story is getting harder to believe even for the person telling it. Now, for you, I want to ask you something, and sit with it honestly before you answer. What would be your biggest mistake in this situation? Because this card has a dual message, and one face of it is looking in your direction. The biggest mistake for you would be to let this person's inability to show up become the story you tell about your own worth. To let their fear write the narrative about what you deserve. To mistake someone else's wound for a verdict on your value. That would be the mistake. Not loving them, love is never a mistake. Not hoping, hope is a gift. But anchoring your sense of self to whether they find their courage in the timeline you need them to. That would be the thing to avoid. Because here is the full picture that these 6 cards have painted for me today, and it is not a story of loss or of love unreturned. It is a story of 2 people on opposite sides of a wall, one waiting, one struggling, both feeling, both carrying something real. There is a signal that hasn't gone quiet. There is a longing that lives on both sides. There is courage that is gathering itself, slowly, in the dark. There is a light that has not gone out and cannot go out because it is simply who you are. There is a wall being examined by the person who built it. And there is a reckoning happening in someone who is beginning to understand the cost of their own retreat. This is not a simple story of rejection. This is a story of 2 humans doing the complicated, messy, profound work of becoming ready for real love, on their own timelines, from their own starting places. I want to close this reading with something that I hope you carry with you, not just today but in the days ahead when the silence gets heavy again. Trust the signal. Not the silence, the signal beneath it. Your intuition about this connection was never wrong. What you felt was real. What you feel now is real. The truth of a connection is not determined by the behavior of the most frightened person in it. Fear is loud. It makes a lot of noise. It masquerades as indifference and distance, and suddenly I am busy. But underneath all of that, underneath every wall and every brick and every missed call and every unsent message, there is still a frequency. And you've been tuned into it this whole time. That's why you're here. But here is the most important thing I can say to you, and I say it with so much love: do not pause your life waiting for someone who is currently paused. Do not dim your light so they can stay comfortable in the dark. Do not shrink the edges of your joy hoping it'll make them less afraid. Live fully. Move forward. Keep becoming the person you were already becoming before this silence asked you to stop. Because the version of you who keeps walking, who keeps shining, who keeps choosing themselves, that is the version of you who either calls this person back into their own courage, or makes space for someone who needed no courage at all to choose you. Either way, you are not waiting. You are walking. And every step you take in your own direction is a step toward the life that was always meant for you. The cards don't lie. The energy around this reading is alive. Whatever happens between you and this person is still being written. And you, your light, your courage, your capacity to love, you are not a chapter in someone else's story. You are the whole book. Trust yourself. Trust the process. And trust that the universe has not brought you this far to leave you here. Thank you for being here. Take what resonated, release what didn't, and go gently with yourself today.